So, you want to buy an airport. Imagine waking up one morning, checking your bank account, and realizing you have enough money to buy your own airport. Not a private runway for your jet, but an actual airport with terminals, security checkpoints, restaurants, baggage systems, and thousands of people passing through every single day. It sounds like the ultimate money-making machine. After all, millions of passengers travel every day. Planes are constantly taking off and landing, and airports never seem to sleep. So owning one must be like owning a giant cash printer, right? Well, not exactly, because here's the surprising part. Airports don't actually make most of their money from airplanes. Instead, some of the biggest profits come from coffee shops, parking lots, rental cars, duty-free stores, and even billboards. In fact, many airports would struggle financially if they relied only on airlines paying landing fees. So if someone handed you the keys to a major airport tomorrow, would you become incredibly rich? Or would you inherit one of the most expensive businesses in the world? Let's find out. First, let's answer the biggest question. Can you actually own an airport? The answer is yes, but it depends on where you live. In the United States, most large airports are owned by local governments, city authorities, or public airport commissions. That means taxpayers technically own them. However, there are also privately owned airports, especially smaller regional airports, business aviation airports, and cargo facilities. Around the world, things are different. Countries like the United Kingdom, Australia, and parts of Europe have several major airports that are privately owned or operated by private companies. So while buying a major international airport isn't as simple as buying a shopping mall, private investors can and do own airport businesses. Now here's where things get interesting. You probably think airlines are an airport's biggest customers. After all, planes are everywhere. But airlines are actually just one piece of the puzzle. Every time an airplane lands, the airline pays several different fees. There's a landing fee based on the aircraft's weight. There are gate usage fees, terminal fees, passenger facility charges, baggage handling fees, and sometimes overnight parking fees for the aircraft itself. That sounds like a lot of money. But here's the problem. Airlines negotiate aggressively. They compete on thin profit margins, and they constantly push airports to keep fees low. If an airport raises prices too much, airlines can simply reduce flights or move service to another nearby airport. So airports can't depend entirely on airlines to stay profitable. Instead, they discovered something much more valuable: passengers. Think about your last trip. Maybe you grabbed the coffee before boarding, bought a bottle of water, paid for checked luggage, parked your car for a few days, picked up snacks, souvenirs, headphones, or a last-minute charger. Each of those purchases generated money for the airport. That's why airports are designed almost like shopping malls with airplanes attached. After security, you're guided through stores, restaurants, coffee shops, luxury brands, bookstores, electronic stores, and duty-free shopping. The longer you stay inside the terminal, the more likely you are to spend money. Airports know this. That's why modern terminals are carefully designed to encourage shopping without it feeling forced. In fact, retail space inside airports is some of the most valuable commercial real estate in the world because customers have something most shopping malls can't create: time to kill. Passengers often arrive 2 hours early and have nowhere else to go. While you're waiting for your flight, retailers have your full attention. And because travelers know they can't easily leave the terminal, they're usually willing to pay higher prices. That explains why a simple sandwich can cost twice as much at the airport as it does outside. But shopping isn't even the biggest surprise. Parking is. Imagine thousands of people leaving their cars for 3, 5, or even 10 days while they travel. Airport parking lots quietly generate hundreds of millions of dollars every year. Unlike airlines, parking customers don't negotiate prices. They simply pay before leaving. The operating costs are relatively low once the parking structure is built, making parking one of the highest margin businesses at many airports. Then there are rental cars. When you land in a new city, chances are you'll need transportation. Rental car companies compete fiercely for airport customers because travelers are ready to rent right after arriving. That's why companies pay significant fees to operate on airport property. Hotels near airports also benefit from airport traffic. Some pay lease fees or partnerships to stay connected to terminals and shuttle systems. And the money doesn't stop there. Every advertisement you see inside an airport has value. Digital screens, billboards, video displays, charging stations, even branded lounges. Companies pay premium prices because airports attract millions of high-income travelers every year. Now you might be thinking, this sounds amazing. Airports must make billions in profit. Not so fast, because airports are incredibly expensive to operate. Runways require constant maintenance. Taxiways need repairs. Terminals must stay clean around the clock. Security systems need regular upgrades. Snow removal equipment, emergency services, airfield lighting, power systems, baggage handling equipment, elevators, escalators, and air conditioning all require non-stop maintenance. Unlike most businesses, airports can't simply close for repairs whenever they want. Flights operate every day. That means maintenance crews often work overnight while passengers are asleep. Then there's staffing. Thousands of people work behind the scenes. Maintenance workers, engineers, electricians, custodians, customer service agents, operations managers, emergency responders, IT specialists, security personnel, wildlife management teams that keep birds away from aircraft. The payroll alone can reach hundreds of millions of dollars every year. And then comes the biggest challenge of all, building new infrastructure. Suppose passenger traffic grows faster than expected. Now your airport needs another terminal, maybe another runway, perhaps a new parking garage. These projects don't cost millions, they often cost billions. A single runway can take years to build and require enormous amounts of land, environmental reviews, engineering work, and government approvals. Even renovating an aging terminal can cost more than building an entire sports stadium. That's why airports constantly borrow money through long-term bonds and financing. Many airports spend decades paying off major construction projects. Now, here's something even more surprising. Not every airport is trying to make huge profits. Many publicly owned airports focus on supporting economic growth instead. Think about it. An airport brings tourists, business travelers, cargo shipments, international investment, hotels, restaurants, convention centers, thousands of local jobs. Even if the airport itself earns only modest profits, the surrounding economy can benefit enormously. That's why cities often invest heavily in expanding airports. A larger airport can attract new airlines, which brings more visitors, which creates more business opportunities throughout the region. In other words, airports don't just move people, they move entire economies. Cargo is another source of revenue that many people overlook. Every day, airplanes transport electronics, medical supplies, flowers, seafood, pharmaceuticals, and millions of online shopping orders. Companies pay airports to handle, store, and process these shipments. As online shopping continues growing, air cargo has become one of the fastest-growing parts of the aviation industry. Some airports actually handle more cargo than passengers. Then there's real estate. Many airports own thousands of acres of land surrounding their runways. Instead of leaving that land empty, they lease it to warehouses, office buildings, logistics companies, hotels, fuel providers, maintenance facilities, and distribution centers. These long-term leases create stable income that isn't as much affected by airline travel. In many cases, airports are becoming real estate businesses almost as much as transportation businesses. But owning an airport also comes with risks that most investors would never expect. One global event can completely change everything. The COVID-19 pandemic showed exactly how vulnerable airports can be. Passenger traffic collapsed almost overnight. Flights were canceled, restaurants closed, parking lots emptied, retail sales disappeared. Airports still had enormous operating costs, but much of their revenue vanished. Many airports lost billions of dollars during that period. It was a reminder that airports may seem permanent, but their income depends heavily on people choosing to travel. Fuel prices can also affect airline schedules. Economic recessions reduce vacations, political conflicts can limit international travel. Extreme weather can delay operations. Even changing business habits, like video meetings replacing corporate travel, can impact airport revenue. So, is owning an airport actually a good investment? The answer depends on one thing: location. An airport in a growing city with strong tourism, expanding businesses, and increasing international travel can become an incredibly valuable asset over time. But an airport serving a shrinking population may struggle for decades. Success isn't determined by the runway. It's determined by the people, businesses, and economic activities surrounding it. In the end, airports are much more than places where airplanes land. They're giant ecosystems where transportation, retail, real estate, logistics, hospitality, and infrastructure all work together. The airplanes may be the most visible part of the business, but they're only one piece of a much larger machine.